think she had 15 points and like 7 assists in the first half of this game. And the whole second half of the game, Stephanie White completely abandoned the Caitlin Clark style offense, went back to relying on running the offense through Kelsey Mitchell. And unfortunately, that was just not enough to get over the hump. The Indiana Fever faced 2 consecutive losses, and cannot believe that this has become a thing, bro.
15 points, 7 assists, complete control of the game. That was the reality for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever in the first half. For nearly 2 quarters, Stephanie White's Indiana Fever offense looked unstoppable. Every possession flowed through Caitlin Clark's pace, Caitlin Clark's vision, and Caitlin Clark's ability to bend an entire defense around her presence. Atlanta had no answers. The ball moved, shooters were open, transition opportunities appeared everywhere. The Fever looked like a team ready to make a statement. Then something changed. The biggest story from this game wasn't simply that the Indiana Fever lost. The biggest story was that the offensive identity that made Caitlin Clark so dangerous in the first half seemed to disappear after halftime. As the game progressed, the offense that had generated elite efficiency suddenly looked different. The pace slowed, the decision-making shifted, the rhythm vanished. And while Atlanta Dream head coach Karl Smesko never directly called out Stephanie White, his comments about adjustments, defensive communication, and responding to Indiana's attack painted a fascinating picture of what happened after halftime. Because while Karl Smesko was praising his team's ability to adjust, many Fever observers were left asking a different question. Why move away from what was already working? Why abandon the offensive style that had Caitlin Clark dominating the game? And why did the second half look like a completely different basketball team compared to the first? Those questions are now becoming impossible for Stephanie White, Caitlin Clark, and the Indiana Fever to ignore.
Stephanie White completely abandoned the Caitlin Clark style offense, went back to relying on running the offense through Kelsey Mitchell. And unfortunately, that was just not enough to get over the hump. The Indiana Fever faced 2 consecutive losses, and cannot believe that this has become a thing, bro. At this point in time, the way the Fever is playing, the way the offense shifts from back and forth, and
the first half belonged to Caitlin Clark. Everything about the Fever offense revolved around creating advantages through Caitlin Clark's playmaking. Atlanta struggled to contain the movement. They struggled to anticipate the passes. They struggled to stop the ball from constantly changing sides of the floor. When Caitlin Clark is operating at her best, defenses face a nearly impossible dilemma. Pressure her too aggressively and she finds open teammates. Give her space and she creates her own shot. Rotate late and the ball reaches a shooter before the defense can recover. That is exactly what happened during the first half. But the second half told a different story. The offensive possessions became less dynamic. The Fever appeared less connected. Instead of forcing Atlanta to react to Caitlin Clark's decision-making, the offense became more predictable. Meanwhile, Karl Smesko's Atlanta Dream were growing more confident with every possession. The most important detail wasn't merely that Atlanta improved defensively. It was that Atlanta survived the first half storm long enough to make adjustments. Great coaches understand that basketball games are often won between quarters rather than during them. The first half gives information, halftime creates solutions, and according to Karl Smesko, Atlanta spent halftime reorganizing defensive responsibilities, improving communication, and fixing switching mistakes. That adjustment completely altered the rhythm of the game. The Fever offense that looked unstoppable suddenly looked uncomfortable. Possessions became harder, shots became more contested. The flow disappeared. For Stephanie White, this creates a difficult conversation moving forward. If Caitlin Clark is producing at an elite level and the offense is functioning efficiently, how much should the system change once adversity arrives? Because every team in the WNBA is studying the same film. Every coach is searching for ways to slow Caitlin Clark. And every future opponent now has evidence that halftime adjustments can dramatically change the shape of a Fever game.
The whole game, I think we needed the second half to get our defense organized, and Indiana's really well coached. Like, they took how we were guarding stuff last game and they immediately made adjustments and punished it, which forced us to have to reevaluate some things and make some adjustments at halftime.
Coach, you guys had the advantage in the offensive glass, 12-4. How much do those extra possessions really?
The most revealing comments from Karl Smesko weren't emotional. They were strategic. When Karl Smesko discussed Atlanta's adjustments, he described a team that understood exactly what Caitlin Clark and the Fever were doing. He acknowledged that Stephanie White had made smart offensive adjustments from the previous matchup. He acknowledged that Indiana punished defensive mistakes. Most importantly, he acknowledged that Atlanta had to reevaluate everything at halftime. That statement matters because it confirms something basketball fans often overlook. Elite coaching battles are ongoing chess matches. The first move belongs to one coach. The counter belongs to another. Then the game becomes a race to find the next answer. For much of the first half, Stephanie White appeared to have the winning strategy. The Fever offense generated elite results. Atlanta's defense looked vulnerable, but Karl Smesko found a response. Communication improved, switching improved, help side positioning improved. Transition opportunities increased. Suddenly, Atlanta was dictating the terms of the contest. Psychologically, that can be devastating for an opposing team. Players begin questioning reads they confidently made earlier, passing lanes shrink, defenders become more aggressive, momentum shifts. For Caitlin Clark, this represents one of the most important developmental challenges of her professional career. Superstars aren't defined by how they play when everything works. They're defined by how they respond after defenses adjust. Every legendary point guard has faced this reality. Defenses evolve, schemes evolve, the pressure intensifies. And the next evolution comes from finding solutions when opponents take away your first option. That challenge now sits directly in front of Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White.
Yeah, I mean, when they're punishing our mistakes defensively and they're playing at that level, I mean, Indiana played offense at just an elite level that first half, just elite. And then for us to be able to just regroup at halftime, make some adjustments, and then you could see the difference on the floor. I thought that's a sign of maturity from our team. Like, they weren't rattled. They understood we needed to do some things.
The consequences of this game extend beyond one loss. They extend beyond one coaching decision. They reach into the future of the Indiana Fever franchise. The Fever entered the season expecting Caitlin Clark to transform the organization, and in many ways she already has. Attendance has exploded. Television audiences have surged. National attention follows every game, but expectations rise alongside attention. Every decision becomes magnified. Every rotation becomes scrutinized. Every offensive adjustment becomes a major storyline. That's why this game carries such significance. When Karl Smesko praised Atlanta's second-half execution, he effectively highlighted the contrast between the two halves. One team adjusted successfully. One team struggled to maintain its early dominance. For Stephanie White, that reality creates pressure, not because of one defeat, because opponents now possess a blueprint. Force the Fever into a different offensive identity, disrupt the pace, limit the freedom that makes Caitlin Clark dangerous, then test whether Indiana can rediscover its rhythm. The next several weeks could determine the trajectory of the season. If Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark solve these adjustment battles, the Fever remain a legitimate contender. If these second-half collapses continue, questions about offensive philosophy will only grow louder. And that is why this game felt bigger than the final score. It felt like a warning. A warning that talent alone won't be enough. Execution, adaptability, and commitment to identity will decide how far the Fever can go.